As we begin ramping up our school protest strategy, targeting the parent-child interface regarding circumcision, and grievance mongering among young men in the high school and college age bracket especially, you know, we are going to be causing a lot of well, I mean, the horror of circumcision itself is going to be causing a lot of problems, a lot of sleepless nights, um, a lot of depression, a lot of PTSD, uh, a lot of suicide, maybe suicidal tendencies, even homicidal tendencies. And this is just going to be a natural result of the ramp up of the strategy. I mean, the circumcision dissatisfaction rate is already somewhere near 20% at least among American men, which is about the same as it is among circumcised African women, by the way. And that's after decades of anti-FGM horror propaganda in Africa. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface on agitation here in America. So we're going to be ramping this up. God only knows what we're going to be seeing. Depression, PTSD, suicidal, homicidal tendencies. I don't know what we're going to see. But I almost think that it is an inevitability that we will get to a point where there will probably be an event. I'm almost resigned to the fact that this will probably happen. That Timothy McCircumcision will end up vaporizing the Alfred P. Murrah Memorial Hospital. Obviously a take on the Oklahoma City bombings. And what can I say? What's going to happen on the day? You know, this guy, whoever does this, will probably send the manifesto out to multiple media organizations and probably carbon copy the rest of us. I don't, the media may or may not try to cover it up depending on how widely circulated it is. The motive for this. I mean, is it that unbelievable? Jonathan Conte, a warrior in the intactivist anti-circumcision movement, ended up killing himself in 2016 amidst the intense pressure and depression and PTSD. Kevin Lloyd Cagle, that kid on Facebook that posted his short little manifesto on Facebook, he killed himself. I believe there was a guy in the UK that killed his mother and then killed himself because of circumcision. Or they may have entered into a suicide pact. David Reimer killed himself after that disaster. I actually know a recent case. Well, I don't know if the case was entirely recent, but it was a case that was brought to my attention recently about a guy who was horribly genitally mutilated. I mean, horribly botched. I mean, he was urinating out of the side of his penis. It sounds like they partially amputated his glands. I'm really not entirely sure what happened. They sort of patched him up the best they could as a baby, and then just let him rot. They didn't attempt any further reconstructive efforts throughout childhood. The family kind of buried the entire thing. It ended up eating him alive. He ended up killing himself. I'm going to end up doing a video on that as well. That case is keeping me up at night. But the bottom line is that this is not out of the realm of possibility, and we sort of have to be prepared for the day that this happens. And I will say, I don't think that the response on the part of intactivists should be a bunch of hand-wringing and apologies. I think it should be a whole lot of, well, I told you so. Don't mean to say I told you so, but I kind of told you so. You don't get to rape and genitally mutilate an entire country and not expect blowback. And you can kind of feign concern too. You can kind of gaslight, and you can kind of even concern troll to a degree. Oh, gee, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want any more doctors or nurses or moils or imams to get hurt. We need to ban circumcision and get justice for the victims of genital mutilation in the form of tissue regeneration so that we can avoid any further violence. You can kind of, like I say, gaslight the gaslighters a little bit. Do a bit of a feigned concern. Again, I mean, I totally disavow violence. I will never harm a hair on anybody's head. I wouldn't harm a fly. But, again, God only knows what's going to happen as this issue is hyped to many, many young men who are may not, and some of whom will not cope as well as the rest of us. And many of us have not coped that well ourselves. So, I don't know. Other people brought this issue to me, and I have thought about it myself, and this is essentially my take on it. Timothy McCircumcision, circumcision terrorism, CircumTerrorism. I don't know how this will end. Again, I disavow violence, but who knows what on earth could happen. Anyway, tell me what you think. Tell me in the comments. Take care. Bye-bye. I do have to say, there are people out there that think that while the school protest strategy is all well and good, and the reaching out to young men through the high schools and the college portion of the protests is also quite well and good, and actually quite feeds into this idea, they think that the only way for intactivism to actually break through is basically the moment, as I said, Timothy McCircumcision vaporizes the Alfred P. Murrah Memorial Hospital. I don't necessarily subscribe to this. It's very interesting. I mean, it's like how will people even know? If you look at the Jeremy Christian case last year, this was a guy in the Pacific Northwest who I believe stabbed up a train. He was yelling at two Muslim women, and then these two men intervened and were stabbed in the neck and killed. What was almost completely unreported was the fact that he was distraught over circumcision. He has numerous Facebook posts. In fact, the article says that the topic of most of his Facebook posts, I believe, one of them is something like, I want to get a job in Norway chopping the heads off of people who circumcise babies. And there's another one as well. I'll see if I can dig them up and maybe post them in the video here. I guess the message there is they'd better carbon copy their manifesto to every single major press organization in the country, as well as intactivist organizations, so that people won't be allowed to live it down. Goodness. But no, in general, I think that the school protest strategy and the recruitment of angry young men strategy, I mean, they sort of go hand in hand. The parent-child interface strategy, which is, broader than just schools, but and the recruitment of young men alone is quite volatile, and someone actually described in particular the parent-child interface strategy as a sort of low-grade riot in terms of the disaster that it's going to cause as you start turning children away from their parents and causing chaos and giving these kids depression and PTSD, and God only knows, probably suicidal and homicidal ideation. I don't know, but somebody described it as a low-grade riot. So the protest strategies that we have, I actually think are quite powerful. I don't think we necessarily need to be sitting around waiting for something like that. But I don't know. I think it's inevitable. As I said, I'm resigned to it happening, and I'm not going to run around apologizing when it does. America, I told you so. Tell me what you think. Bye-bye.